So I'm Kat,
Taylor.
and this is Bookmarked Episode 1. On this podcast, we're going to be doing book reviews and just talking about our feelings about books and what we like, what we don't like, and sometimes it'll be spoilers and sometimes it'll be spoiler free, and we'll do our best to tell you when a spoiler is coming if you haven't read the books we're talking about. But for this first couple of episodes, what we're going to be talking about is the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. If you've been living under a rock and never heard of them, it is a young adult fantasy series. And for this first segment, there is a few novellas that were written, and so we've read the first novella as well as book one. So the first novella is called The Assassin and the Pirate Lord, and then book one is Throne of Glass. And those are the two books we'll be talking about today. Oh, great job bringing a visual cue. I didn't even think of that. So good. Taylor and I really, our friendship kind of blossomed talking about books. We worked together, and what sort of established us more as friends than just coworkers, I would say, is just our love of books is really what set that off for the most part. And so we both recommended a lot of books to each other. We do buddy reads, and then we have very similar tastes in books as well, so that helps. I mostly read fantasy with some science fiction, pretty much exclusively fiction. That's mostly the genres I read.
I mostly read, I'd say, fantasy and fiction, dark romance. I don't think I've read a single nonfiction book.
Sometimes just it's just better to be in the world is already complicated enough as it is. We don't need reality. We want to be somewhere else when we
I
go
think that's
into a
exactly
book.
where I am.
Perfect. All right. So first, we're going to start off by talking about the first novella, which is called "The Assassin and the Pirate Lord." If anybody else is reading these and you're confused, they were originally published separately, but they've all of the novellas have been compiled into one called "The Assassin's Blade." So this is the first book in the Assassin's Blade, which is called "The Assassin and the Pirate Lord."
What did you think about The Assassin and the Pirate Lord?
So, oh, well, this would be a good segue to say. So, this is mine and Taylor's, both of our reread of this series. We have both read this complete series at least once before. We both know what's going to happen. We know who the characters are. So, this is kind of just us revisiting. But so, a lot of the stuff that I was taking note of with these was stuff that I didn't notice the first time, but stands out to me more. Like, first of all, we're introducing that she's an assassin and she's in the Assassin's Guild. And right away that she's talking in her head about the fact that she's only 16, like a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
in my brain, I'm like, how are you a 16-year-old hanging out with all these adult men, and you are the queen of the assassins? Like, why are you the number one assassin? Respectfully, like, what? How did you earn this title?
Yes, I also very early on, I highlighted a lot about how cocky she was. She's always talking about like how she can kill so and so, and like right here, they could kill Rolf just as easily with their bare hands. And I'm like, you're 16.
Right? Yeah, you're a child. But I think that's one of the reasons that Selena is such a lovable character too, is because she is so bold and cocky, and I feel like that's really it kind of sets her apart from most other female main characters of that genre. I feel
Yeah.
like most of the time you read a female main character and they're pretty timid or at least like unsure, usually at the beginning of the series, and then by the end, they've established this sense of confidence. But Selena, straight out the gate, is like, I'm a badass, and you all are gonna respect that. In fact, she wants everyone to like know how awesome she is, and her like reputation and being number one and everybody just bowing to her prowess is very important to her from the beginning.
Hmm.
Which, I mean, I wish I had that level of confidence.
But I guess before we get much deeper, when
Mhm.
you first read Throne of Glass, what order did you put Assassin's Blade in? Or which?
Oh, okay. So I read all of the Assassin's Blade novellas after I had finished Kingdom of Ash. So I already knew what happened, and for me, it was all just flashbacks.
Hmm.
So from that standpoint, it made me cry the entirety of Assassin's Blade. I was just bawling.
Hmm.
I'll try not to be too spoilery, at least just yet, but I'll just say because I know what happens to all the characters, so I was just sobbing the first time I read it.
I think it was the same way. Yeah, I first read this Throne of Glass series. I think it's 2 years now. I think it would have been 2 years in this, maybe like right around this time. And I read the Assassin's Blade last as well. And then going through this now, I firmly stand on the fact that Assassin's Blade should be read first.
Interesting.
Absolutely. I think so because just there's so much info in this book, even in like the first chapter, that pops up in the first book, the very first book. And I feel like if I had known who some of these characters were, and because she's always talking about Sam and I will not be afraid and stuff like that, and I feel like it would have just, I think it would have been more beneficial for me to have read it first instead of last, although I did like it last because it was, I had finished, Kingdom of Ash, and it was sad to not have any more of the story. So yeah, catching up again with Assassin's Blade was nice, but the information in here is so great. I think it would have been great going into this immediately after reading that.
Yes. I would agree with you. I think a part of me holds on to this like nostalgic reading order because that's how I did it the first time, and so I'm like, no, that's what you should do. But it's no, you shouldn't. Taylor's 100% correct.
And then like even when we're looking at the book, like it says, I don't know if you can read that. The Assassin's Blade. It's first right here. So I know in the reading order it's supposed to be third or whatever, but first.
And I really like the order that we're doing it for this reread too, which is a novella in between each of
Mm-hmm.
the main books because they go with the story perfectly. Like when you're
Yeah.
introduced to a character from the novellas, that's next book is when you're going to meet that character probably.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I agree. Anybody who has not read these before, first of all, the Assassin's Blade novellas, you can't skip them. Don't just not read them
They're
because
very
they're
essential.
yes. And also don't do what we did and don't read them last.
Yeah.
They'll mean more to you and maybe you'll cry slightly less.
Maybe you could read them
Probably
first
not,
and then
but
last. Read them twice.
right. Yes.
It was so good though. Okay, so one thing that stood out to me, I highlighted, all the world knew about Selena Sardothien, Adderland's assassin, was that she was female. And I don't know how I missed this, but I thought like I did, for some reason I thought nobody even knew she was female.
Mm.
I don't know why, but I thought that that was a secret that she was a female. I didn't know people knew anything about her. I don't know how I missed it, but I did.
Thought everything was. I will say I remembered vaguely that she had the mask on all the time, and so people didn't
Mm-hmm.
know her identity. But I did have a couple of inconsistencies with that I noticed in the first Throne of Glass book because at one point I think it's right at the end of Throne of Glass, and she like tells a couple of the other competitors or something her name, and they all or maybe they like put the name to the face. I don't know. It seemed like they like recognized her, but maybe that was just because of the name.
I think I caught that actually. I don't know if I caught it the first time around. Um, but I think it's because when she was taken to Endovir, Endovir. Why does that sound weird coming out of my mouth? Okay, when she was taken to their, I think they saw her. I think people finally saw her and discovered that she was a female. But
Makes sense. Thank
apparently
you,
they
because
knew.
I completely forgot about this Ben person because I
Me
think he's
too.
really only mentioned in this novella.
Hmm.
But I think it does kind of set the tone that she like establishes a lot of friendships pretty easily. That I feel like that's another big thing about her character. And this one that we never even meet was kind of like pivotal to her because during all of this novella, the first couple of pages, I was like, why is this Ben guy important? I don't even remember this as a
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah,
So
and then I noticed later on in The Assassin and the Pirate Lord, um, she was talking about how she hadn't had a hug in years, and the last person to hug her was Ben, apart
yeah,
from Sam, I think. I think she was hugging Sam when she had that realization or something.
yeah.
Yeah. I also, for some reason, when I did the first read, I thought Sam didn't like her until like much later on in the book. But on page 42, he's already being like, we could always just not return to Rifthold.
Right. Yeah.
So I feel he
I
liked her very early on, and I don't know how I didn't catch that either. I don't know.
I'm a little bit confused about how they're not about how they're even enemies to begin with in the
Yeah.
beginning of this one because she says explicitly multiple times that they grew up together. They've been
Hmm.
around each other forever. So I just feel like it would be hard for Selena to keep her true intentions and motives secret from someone that she grew up with for years. But Sam at least gives the impression in this first novella that or that at least Selena thinks that he doesn't like know who she is and what she likes and, you know.
Mm,
Okay, can we talk about Rolf?
yes.
Okay. I forgot that he sold his soul for the tattoo map thing.
I forgot
And
that
also,
also.
furthermore, to whom did he sell his soul? Who?
Yeah.
Does that ever get told?
I guess we'll figure it out.
Because sign me up. Give me a magical
Yeah,
map.
right? Have you watched Once Upon a Time? Is that what it's
Yes.
called? Once Upon a Time? In my mind, Rolf is the pirate in Once Upon a Time.
Yeah, the dude who plays Hook.
Yeah.
Yes, he's
Hmm.
very handsome.
Yes.
Yes, Rolf is hella handsome in my
Yeah.
brain.
I
Hmm.
also feel like I don't exactly remember which book it was when she goes to, what's this place called again?
Skulls Bay.
Yeah, when she goes to Skulls Bay. But I feel like the very beginning when she's in his office, sitting in his seat, playing with the stuff on his desk, that's a full circle moment. And I thought that was
Oh
cool.
yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. Reiterate. You can't skip Assassin's Blade.
You
You
cannot.
have to read it. One thought that I was thinking, because she mentions that Arobin has auburn hair, which I had kind of forgotten in my head. He has really dark hair, but he has auburn hair, and if anybody has read any other Sarah J. Maas books, I just want to say I think she does not like auburn-haired people because they always end up
Yeah.
being like a bad guy.
Wonder if
Not
she was
always,
personally
but like
victimized by a ginger.
right. Her Regina George was a ginger, and
Yeah.
it's clear. I mean, I guess she does have some other red-haired people that aren't bad guys, but I feel like when she uses auburn specifically, it's like usually a bad person. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, also that the assassins have a moral code to begin with, I think is kind of interesting. Like Selena talks about that she won't do certain types of jobs, like she won't, kill kids, for example.
Hmm.
But then also talks about how they're also dangerous and cutthroat and you can't trust each other and seems a little bit like, okay, well, is there a code or do you just have a code
Yeah, I
that
think
Arobin
I
like
think it
lets
might
you do?
just be her because yeah, the way her and Sam, go to Skulls Bay, find out what is being imported or sold, and then stops that,
Right.
Is it just them? Oh, it is because Sam was also upset about the when he found out that they're
I feel let's
so
just get into it. This is too hard. The spoilers, people. Spoilers.
because yeah, in here it says his mother, sold at 8 to a brothel, had spent her too short 28 years clawing her way up from an orphan to one of the most successful courtesans in Rifthold. So Sam's mother, is a prostitute.
Yeah, I
Is
think
there a better
that's
word for that?
no. I mean, it's nicer than saying like hooker. So,
Yeah, a
yeah, she's
courtesan.
a prostitute, a courtesan. I feel like courtesan is probably the nicest way to say it.
Yeah, so Sam's mother is a courtesan in Rifthold, and she was Arobin's favorite. And so that's why he gets upset about finding out that some of the children on the slave ships, will eventually probably be sold or given into brothel owners' hands and whatnot. Yeah, a brothel madam might show up at the auction too. But then I also saw a theory on the internet coming back to this that Sam could possibly be Arobin's son, since
Yes,
his mom was his favorite courtesan, and I thought that was very interesting. Do we know what
I've
Sam
heard
looks
that
like?
too.
Did it say what Sam looks like?
Gosh, I don't know. I guess I picture him as blonde, but I don't know why.
And I think in the fan art that I've seen, he looks brunette, but I don't know.
I mean, Auburn has brown in it, so could be. Well, and that would make sense too. Why? Because even from the beginning, it doesn't really make sense to me why Arobin picks up Selena in the first place. The story she kind of keeps saying, which is that he took interest in her and trained her to be an assassin so that she could be like basically take his place, but that she also has to like pay him back and for all that. But for Sam, it it doesn't make sense either. Like, why do you randomly have these
Exactly.
two kids that you brought in?
Yeah.
So yeah, if he's his son, that would definitely be a vested interest.
Yeah, because Arobin, who doesn't really care for anyone other than Selena. why else would he bring another child in if
Right.
not? Yeah, I wish that was something we could find out, but that will never be. I feel like that's never going to be anything that we'll figure out
I know, dang
or
it.
get like confirmation on.
Unless she writes more Throne of Glass books, which is also a rumor. But we can talk about that later. Let's see. Some other thoughts we had during The Assassin and the Pirate Lord. Okay, well, I forgot how much Selena just loves everything luxurious. I forgot how that was
I
such a
forgot about
main.
that too. It's so
Yeah,
cute.
it's so funny. Like, I also feel like that's why another way that she's really different than other female main characters. Because she's this like badass who knows how to fight, and I feel like that's usually sort of like type written to be, oh, she's a girl who like doesn't know stuff, and so she learns how to fight, and she doesn't like dresses and pink and blah blah blah.
Hmm.
But Selena's like, no, first of all, I'm a confident, I'm gonna kick your butt, and I want to look really fucking good when I do
Yes.
it. That's so I forgot about that. She just wants everything to be like super nice and clean and shiny, and she wants fancy things. I love it.
Yes, and I love that for her. In even within like this first novella, which is 75 pages, um, she's already making connections to a faraway land she hadn't seen in 8 years, pine and snow, um, staring across the leagues of lonely black ocean, seeing somehow that distant city that had once long ago been her home, and just talking about all these things. She knew all the constellations by heart, and she instinctively sought out the stag, lord of the north, and the immovable star that crowned his head. And then she was talking about, yeah, or not Aderlan, Arobin, and how he found her, and just like the weird, I can't think of the word. Does it start with C? The weird, like how he found her.
Circumstance? Is that the
Yeah,
word
the
you're looking
weird
for?
circumstances in which he found her. And it's just like so, there's so much foreshadowing. And I feel like I didn't catch a lot of this because I read it last.
I
But,
didn't. Well, and
but
even in
if
Throne of
we're,
Glass, there's a lot of that I didn't catch.
yes, yes, absolutely. And I feel like even if I had tried to read Assassin's Blade first, I would not have gotten far.
No,
Because
this.
I think this was technically, I think, my second fantasy book.
Okay.
I had been strictly contemporary before you forced me into this.
I have no regrets.
Just kidding. I think I read the Never King series, so it was um, kind of like a crossover. It was contemporary in like the first few chapters, and then turned into fantasy and whatnot. So I think that's what told you to tell me to read this, and I fought you
So
for
glad
so long on it.
you did, but I'm glad that you caved eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will. There is so much foreshadow. I mean, series, I think one of the reasons it's so special to a lot of people is because it's done so well in that way. Like, it's from the very beginning, she's laying breadcrumbs of how it's going to end, and it feels very purposeful the way that the
Hmm.
story unfolds. So once all the little things get revealed, it's like you can see, oh, this has been where we're going this whole time. Maybe other people who are like really versed in plot or something would see a lot of this sooner than we did, but I think we were both just so engrossed in the story of it that it was like, well, just a part of the story.
Yeah. Another thing to note is, wasn't she 16 when she first started writing these?
I think you're right. Yeah.
And how? Like, how? There's all like I don't even, this is like mind boggling to even read. Imagine just like writing it, having it in your brain, knowing all these things are going to connect and how they're going to connect, and putting that down on paper. It's amazing.
Seriously. Yeah, as an aspiring author someday, I can't even. I just have to bow in awe. I don't know. Her brain is
Yeah.
magical. It's amazing.
I feel like I need one of those boards, that exact meme that I'm talking about, to
Yep.
just connect these. I wonder what she had, if she had anything.
Right. If it's all in her brain and not outside somewhere, that's almost scarier. Like,
Yeah.
how do you keep this straight? Something else I was thinking about for the first novella, when they realize what the cargo is and that they're going to be selling slaves, I thought it was interesting how they both, Sam and Selena initially both were like plotting separately on how to not do it before they even
Yeah.
talked to each other. I just loved how they both were like, nah, we're not doing this.
Hmm. Um, Something that I noticed that could be, I guess, connected to the other series that I didn't notice when I first read this. It says the slaves still rode for the chain as if demons from every hell realm were upon them. And so they're already talking about this realm, this hell realm and whatnot. And I'm just curious if that ever
That is
becomes a
such a good
thing.
catch.
Hmm.
That is such a good catch. For anybody out there that doesn't know, all the Sarah J. Maas's main series, she has multiple, and they're a crossover to each other. I feel like that's not a spoiler at this point. Like if you have read any of her books, you would probably know that at this point. But also something else Taylor and I are noticing on our reread and sort of looking for on this reread, I think, is some of those crossover things now that we know that all the books are connected. Yeah, I was also noticing a lot of that, more so in The Throne of Glass, though, so that's a really good catch because I didn't even
Yeah.
notice that in
Hmm.
this one.
Okay. Did you like this book? I mean, this novella?
I mean, yes, it's so hard for me to separate these from like just to try to rate them or think about them on their own. It's so difficult. I don't know.
I
I will say
know.
I guess if it was like, this is your one and done and this was all, you were just trying to think of it by itself, I guess it probably wouldn't be quite a 5 star, but that's only because there's not enough. Like,
Yeah.
so you kind of, I don't even know if you can really think of it separately, but if you did, I guess I would say probably a 3 because there's
I
just
think
not
so
enough
too.
meat. Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. And I think that's also why if I had read this first, I probably would not have finished the series. I probably would not have moved on to Throne of Glass if I read The Assassin's Blade first. So it's kind of like a little hard for me, I guess, because I firmly believe this should be read first.
Yes.
But would I have continued? I mean, maybe now if I had read it now, being
Right.
3 years into reading again, 4 years into reading again, but as as my second fantasy book, I don't know if I would have. So it's like I'm a little bit torn on that. But I hate the fact that people are reading it third. That's not an
Yeah.
option in my mind.
No, I don't think that's a good reading order. And I will say also,
No.
as much as I agree that you cannot read the series without Assassin's Blade, I think the best, now that we're doing it this way, I think this is the best way to do it. And that's just how I would recommend anybody do it because just like you were saying, I think if you were to start with Assassin's Blade and read all of the novellas back to back, I think it would get a little bit boring and be hard to
Yeah,
continue because each novella has Selena, but then it's not a continuation. It's a separate story. So, and there's just not enough meat. I don't know. I think doing a novella and then a book is the way to go. And
I
that's the
do.
way to get
I
through
do like this
Assassin's Blade.
also. Yeah.
Okay, any other thoughts on Assassin and the Pirate Lord?
I don't think so.
Okay, I don't think I. Oh, one little note that I wrote, which is more about the fact that I have the physical books, and the first time I read these, I read them physically. And this go around, I've been doing kind of a combo of listening and reading. And the way that she pronounces Adderland is just
Hmm.
hilarious, and we can't move on without talking about it because it's Otterland is
I thought it was
Otterland.
Otterland too when I read it, and then now because I'm also doing a combination. I'll be listening and reading at the same time so I can highlight. And I love her voice now that I've read or listened to all of these. I like get goosebumps every time I hear her voice because I just think of this series and how good it was and how impactful it was in that time when I was reading it. And
Yes, shout out
yeah,
Elizabeth Evans, right?
yes.
Yeah, huge
Hmm.
shout out Elizabeth Evans. I feel like that's a huge part of the magic of these audiobooks is the
Hmm.
wait, is her narration.
Yeah,
How she says Otterland is funny, but
yeah.
everything. And
Going off of
also,
that though,
yes.
you okay? I feel like since I am both reading and listening at the same time, I'm comprehending so much more than if I
Yeah.
were to just listen.
Yeah, it's it's kind of a bummer because I am a huge proponent of audiobooks and that's how I
Mhm.
consume probably 90% of my books nowadays is through audiobooks. But
Same.
yeah, physically reading, I feel like you get more and then doing the combo especially you're going to get a lot more. But
Hmm.
physically reading, I feel like you it just helps with retention
Yeah, it
especially.
just doesn't even compare, and it's sad.
I know, it's annoying. Like why can't my
Mhm.
ears process the same way?
Yeah,
Cuz you could get through so much more books.
and I feel like so yeah, I also do a lot of audiobooks now, whereas I used to strictly read. I did not like the idea of audiobooks. I'm very picky about people's voices.
Yes.
But now I've noticed the difference between what I'm imagining when I'm listening and what I'm imagining when I'm reading. And I mean, both are very vivid. It's just very different from each other.
Yes.
And I think it's so easy to, go somewhere else for a second and miss something. And yeah.
Yes. But when you're physically reading, it's harder to do that.
Hmm.
Or if you do, you have to like backtrack because you're like, wait, I don't know where we're at.
Yeah.
If that ever happens to you, where you're physically reading and your eyes just kind of glaze over and you stop really processing, you like have to go back because you realize I don't know what's happening. Whereas
Yeah,
when
you
you're just
just
listening,
read the
it's
same
easy.
page
Just
3 times.
right.
Yeah. Okay, so we are moving on to Throne of Glass now.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, first thing I just gotta say is right off the gate, I forgot that she had the mantra of the "My name is Selena Sardathian and I will not be afraid." That's like page 1 or 2 or so. It's
Yeah.
very early. I forgot how early that had been introduced, and yeah, so I cried already.
Yeah. I think that's another reason why I stand by this should be read first, is because that is perfectly explained in The Assassin's Blade. And going into this, I had no idea what that meant. I had no
You're
idea.
you're just like,
And
oh, good for
even,
you, dude.
yeah, it's just, and just so much.
One question that I thought was kind of funny was so the first chapter, okay. Sorry, two things. First of all, I always said Kale when I was physically reading the books, and so now even listening to it, I cannot say Kale. I just can't. His name is Kale in my brain. I'm sorry, but
And
when he's leading her through the like encampment building or whatever, and trying to like disorient her because she's blindfolded, I don't. Maybe this is me just being like really overconfident, but I don't feel like that would disorient me that much either. Like, because you'd remember, like, oh, I turned and then I went down and then I went up.
I think
But
I'd be so disoriented. I'd
maybe
have
I'm just
no
being
idea
way
where we were.
I'm just being way
I'm not built
overconfident.
to be an assassin. One thing I noticed, like literally first off, chapter 2, page 7, they're already talking about obsidian eyes and Duke Parrington, who I forgot existed,
Yes,
hated him.
same.
And then also, they talked about her eyes too, the brilliant ring of gold around her pupils. But it was her golden hair that caught the attention of most, hair that still maintained a glimmer of its glory. And with that being said, in my mind, I don't remember if this is real or true, but like, how does the king not know who she is?
Yes, right. Well, because this isn't even really like a spoiler because we're just talking about these books right now. So we'll try. I guess I'll try not to spoil stuff that happens later in the series. But by the end of book 1, we know that the king can see the word marks,
Mm-hmm.
and so he can see all of the weird magical stuff that's like happening as well. So shouldn't he be able to see the mark that keeps showing up on her forehead?
Yeah, and I thought at the end of here, when she, right after she finishes the duel and then goes to her rooms, he has a little chapter, I thought, if I'm not crazy, talking about the mark on her forehead. So he did see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yes, you're right. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe that will be revealed as we continue because that also seems like a plot hole at this point. Like, how does he
Hmm.
not know? Like, at this point, we don't know why he knows about the weird marks. That hasn't really been revealed other than we know that he knows and we know that he's a part of the like weird, nefarious stuff that Parrington has been doing, especially with like the Ritterrack and all of that stuff. Well, the Ritterrack, that's a crossover, isn't it?
I think so. I'm trying to find, I should have wrote this down somewhere. I was trying to find his description because it kind of sounded like the beast in the very beginning of Crescent City.
Yes, right.
Can't remember what those are called either.
I should have just grabbed the book and tried to find it, but I wasn't prepared for a deep dive. Maybe we'll have to do a separate episode where we just do a deep dive and try to make the
Yeah.
map with all the this is tied to that, and it's tied to that.
A little tie to The Assassin and the Pirate Lord. Cain is a soldier in the king's army and he hails from the White Fang Mountains. And if we remember, when she enters the ship full of slaves in Skulls Bay, she was talking about how a lot of the people there were from the White Fang Mountains. And so in my mind, I'm like, was Cain a slave? Was Cain
Oh,
originally a slave? Is that how he ended up going to Rifthold? Was he sold by Arrowband to the king because the king was buying the slaves, wasn't he? And so is that how he got there? Was he originally a slave?
that's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
Does that ever? I don't know. Do we learn anything more about Cain? I don't think we do.
I don't think so. And it says many of them had rebelled against Adarlan, and most wound up dead. So the fact that he's not dead, something happened. And if he was a slave, then it would have been easy to, give him a ring, make him whatever,
Right. Yes. That's a great point. What did you think reading the like assassins contest again? Like, so the contest that gets put together to try to find the what does he call it? The king's right hand. What do they call it? Champion.
Yes, the King's Champion.
Right.
I remembered it feeling longer the first time I read it. And then when I was reading it the second time, I'm like, oh wow, that was way fast. That was very
Yeah.
fast. But I really liked it. I think my favorite scene is when they are scaling at the castle. I really
Yeah.
liked that one. And
That's a
she
great one.
saved, was she saving Knox? Is that who was falling, or was it
I'm pretty sure
the
it's
other
Knox.
guy? Yeah.
Because Grave is the one that knows poisons, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was Knox that she saves. Yeah, I agree. I felt like the first time I read it, I thought that it took longer, but really, and maybe that's just because the book isn't as long as all the other ones. Like it's substantially shorter than once you start getting towards the end, they get a lot thicker.
Yeah.
So maybe I just in my head was like, it's a long
Hmm.
book, but it's really not that long. And yeah, I agree. I think that the contest element or the competition element is really fun. It sort of draws me into these.
Yeah.
And it feels kind of reminiscent of a lot of books that were really popular at the same time, like, Divergent and Hunger Games and those kinds of things where there's like a test, some kind of thing going on.
Yes, it's always so fun. Such high stakes.
Yes. I liked the potion competition. Was it potions?
Hmm.
I don't, poisons.
Yeah,
Poisons
poisons.
competition.
Yeah. Hmm. Some foreshadowing though. Um, on page 13, she's talking about she could kill him so easily, tear that grin from his face. She's talking about the king. She could destroy the king as he had destroyed her. And
Mm,
then she's talking about how his proposition could lead to escape. She could run and disappear into the mountains and live in solitude in the dark green of the wild with a pine needle carpet and a blanket of stars overhead. And I just keep thinking of like Akatar and all their stars references, and then all the star references that happen in Crescent City, and then, where she comes from, Terrasen. At the sound of the word, she saw a land of pine and snow, of sun-bleached cliffs and white-capped seas, a land where light was swallowed in the velvety green of bumps and hollows, a land that she had forgotten. She's just constantly talking about Terrasen.
yes. Yeah. And even hearing you say it out loud just now, Terrasen feels a lot like the way that she describes Valaris in Akatar. It's very similar.
Yeah. So very early on in the scene when they're leaving Endovir and they're heading to Rifthold, that Oakwalled Forest scene, I really love that.
Yes.
She was also talking about how it's Brannan's forest, and she had met a young woman from that cursed land. I don't remember who that is, but there's just so much in here that we would know if we read all of this.
Yes. True. I forgot that the little fairies showed up to her like
Yeah,
right away. She's like, "Oh, there's a
yeah,
little fairy footprints. I better brush those away before anybody notices." Like, what? No, talk about the fairies more.
yeah. And I don't know how. Well, I guess yeah. How did I miss that?
Same.
And it very early on says that she used to have powers. She no longer has powers. So right off the bat, we know she's not just human. But like, why did I think she was just human? Hmm.
She gives us all of the information. She just does it so quickly. But honestly, I feel like this is something I was thinking during the whole book, during the Throne of Glass book, was there's so much like boy drama going on the sides that you kind of forget about the main story sometimes. Like, because she's
Yes.
always like, she'll be like, "Oh, there's this major big deal that I have to deal with," and then one sentence later, be like, "Dorian's really cute, and he's looking at
I
me."
really want to kiss him.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in here it says it had been a while since she'd contemplated the gifts she'd lost, though the memory of her abilities haunted her dreams. Like, how did that just yeah. But
I think
yeah,
she just hides it really well with all the
she
boy
does.
stuff.
But yeah, the little fairy things were super cute too, and how they left flowers at her feet. I don't know how I forgot about that either. Another star reference. Through a clearing in the swirling mass, a cluster of stars could be seen. He couldn't help thinking that they gazed down at her. And in that point, I think it's Dorian looking at her in that moment. And so, yeah, he couldn't help thinking that they gazed down at her. And I'm just like, to the stars.
Stars again.
Yeah, and then the next page I have still the image haunted his dreams throughout the night. A lovely girl gazing at the stars and the stars who gazed back. And I had written in this the very first time I read this Akatar reference question mark. And
Right.
so
To
I
the
just,
stars who listen?
mm-hmm,
Question mark. I will say one thing towards the beginning of the book. She starts describing because it's called Throne of Glass, and the castle is made out of glass.
mm-hmm.
I still have a hard time picturing a whole freaking castle made out of glass, man. I can't picture it. I try. I've even looked up fan art, and I'm like, okay, that kind of makes sense. But in my head, my first thought is always like, damn, it probably gets really hot in there.
And when I was first reading it, I think I completely just like blocked that out because I didn't like how it looked in my head. The castle did not look like that. Um, but some foreshadowing. I don't understand why you refuse to enter the glass edition, he went on. There's no difference between the interiors. And then she says, only an idiot would walk in a house made of glass. It's as sturdy as steel and stone. Yes, until someone just a bit too heavy enters and it comes crashing down. And then him saying that's impossible. Another full circle moment. And then right after that, they start talking about that tower, a tower made of inky black stone. And she talking about the gates of word, and the king had it built around Dorian's birth. There's so much I want to say.
We can talk about it when we get to book 4. Yep. Yeah, clock tower. It's a clock, isn't it, at the top?
Mm-hmm.
Points it out right away. It's got like the gargoyles on it. I could picture that. Great. I cannot
Yeah.
picture an entire castle with multiple levels made out of glass, but
Another thing that stood out to me is when Dorian is speaking to his father, the king, very early on, Dorian says, perhaps you should consider our difficulty in getting past Winland's naval defenses to be a sign that you should stop playing at being a god. And the king goes, playing? I'm not playing, and this is not a game. And I just feel like it leads to just so many answers. From the very beginning, the foreshadowing is just wild. How can a 16-year-old girl be writing this?
I know. Yeah, she sets the story up so well.
Hmm.
I was thinking about that with Dorian, kind of touching on that. The way that he talks to his dad is kind of interesting because sometimes Dorian is sort of talking about or with his dad in a way that he's very afraid, but then in another moment he's talking to him kind of with a lot of, what would be considered like tude. And I don't know if maybe that's just because like he's a prince. I don't know if it's like an inconsistency per se, but it just seems kind of interesting that sometimes he seems very afraid of the
Yeah.
king and like he doesn't like his dad, and then in the next breath, kind of talking to him like a normal teenage son would to their
Mm.
dad. But maybe that's kind of a bit of I don't know if that's really like off per se because of what we find out later, but it did kind of take me out sometimes. Like, are you nervous about it or are you not? Because even at the end of the book, when Selena essentially breaks up with Dorian the second after they like get together, he's like, well, because she says something to the effect of like, well, in 4 years I'm going to be free. I don't want to live my life having secrets anymore. And he's like, great, I'll tell my dad about you right now. Like,
Yeah, I that is kind of like a little loophole or something, plot hole. Because yeah, he's kind of very kind of mouthy. Yeah.
yeah, for just I don't know, for how much of a like bad guy aura the king kind of gives off, it's sort of interesting that
Yeah.
Dorian's sometimes kind of I don't know what the right word is, but like not obedient, I guess. Speaking of another thing that kind of took me out sometimes was like, so it's been 1 year at this point, so she's 17, but the only person that makes sense for their age bracket and their status is Dorian because he's a prince, so
Yeah.
he's born into it. But Kaol also is super young for being like the captain of the guard, and
Hmm.
I'm always just like, how? And when he kills Kane at the end, definitely spoiler time now. If when he kills Kane at the end, and then you understand that it's his first kill, I'm just kind of like, how? If you are the captain of the guard, doesn't the king make you do bad stuff? Like,
Right. And
how have you not
I
killed
think pretty
anyone?
much the only reason he got that position is because he was Dorian's friend.
That makes sense, I suppose. Yeah.
Hmm. Another thing, I guess Dorian's mom also has auburn hair.
What a evil bitch. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. And so now in my mind, I feel like there are connections in Crescent City with Akatar, some familial crossovers there, and so now I'm trying to connect everyone with auburn hair somehow. I'm like, all these people are related somehow.
Everybody's just from the Autumn Court, and they're all
Yes.
bad. Wouldn't that be interesting? I
That
wonder.
would
I
be.
wonder. I wonder what's going to happen next when these next SJM books come out.
Hmm. And then yeah, there's a lot of talking about black eyes, dark eyes shining, and all those. And I don't know if I picked up on any of that really when I was first reading this at all.
Same.
And then yeah, they're talking about Sam, a lot of Sam, her learning and playing the pianoforte, which I think is something that comes sometime in Assassin's Blade.
Yeah, I
So
totally forgot
much.
that she had learned the piano, that she knew an instrument at all. I'd forgotten that.
Yeah, me too.
That's something else I really like about all of the main characters that come out of the SJM universe is they all are very multifaceted. Like
Hmm.
Selena isn't just a killer. She's, she has all of these things. And I think that's what makes her characters really compelling is they're all a full person. Like they all have lots of hobbies and things that they like and can
Yeah,
do.
and they're all different. Yeah. What did you think about Nehemia and Elena?
Oh my God. Okay.
The
Well,
audacity.
Nehemia, Nehemia, I forgot how much of a badass she is from the second that we meet her.
Hmm.
Um, and I love their friendship because I love how they're both kind of like subtly testing each other from the beginning, but it's from
Yes.
this immediately this point of like respect.
Hmm.
Because the second Selena starts speaking in Eoway with her, they're just like, is that what it's Eoway, right? Is the name of the language also? Okay. They're just like, okay, you're cool. We have a secret code. Nobody else speaks Eoway. We're gonna be cool. And then they start sparring with each other. And then even when Nehemia is not telling Selena the full truth, you still want to like her.
Yes.
She just seems like this very strong, cool person. Elena. She's just, I don't, these ghosts giving like half truths are just so annoying.
Hmm.
But
Yes.
I definitely forgot how involved Elena was in helping Selena win the last competition. I forgot how involved she was in that and getting all the
Yeah.
like demon ghost guys to go away and stuff.
Hmm.
Also, the correlation with the names. How did I not see that before?
Yeah.
Like Elena, Selena, they're the same name almost. How did I
Hmm.
not get the connection?
I think also one of my favorite parts in this book is when she first discovers the tunnels and them being hidden behind like that tapestry of Elena. And I don't know, there's something I love so much about that. I love like hidden rooms and places and stuff like that. But then also going back to Nehemia, I think I've noticed one of my favorite tropes is the found family trope. And so I love when people have friends and create a friend circle because they no longer have a family. It's just like one of my favorites. I love it so much.
Yes, absolutely. And Selena's love for her friends is so deep and it's so true. I think I don't remember exactly when it happens, but even when it's like right before the winter ball thing that she goes
Hmm.
to, the Christmas ball. She's going to, and she's at that time thinking that Nehemia might be the one controlling the Ritterak, and she's like, "Oh, this bitch is suspicious. I gotta watch her, and that's why I have to go to this ball and get all dressed up, because I have to watch Nehemia." But
Hmm.
even when she has that thought in the back of her mind, she's still like, "Man, this sucks. I really liked her. Like, she's a good person."
Yeah, I actually, that chapter you're talking about, I really like that chapter. I had bookmark or paper clipped it. I think that's one of my favorite chapters is when she goes to the ball and she is dancing with um was it Dorian?
Yes,
Yes. I really loved that.
it's really good. I could picture like exactly how she looked too with that descriptor. She's just beautiful, and she comes in with her little masquerade. Also, who has a masquerade ball on Christmas? But I mean, I'm here
Right?
for it. But
A little possible connection type thing. On page 208, it says, there's an idea that before the goddess arrived, there was life, an ancient civilization, but somehow they disappeared. Perhaps through the word gate thing. Ruins exist, ruins too old to be of fae making. And then that kind of reminds me of in Akatar, the mountain. Oh, weren't there people living in that mountain or something? And then you could see, or I don't know if it was Farah seeing something or having visions. Someone was having visions about the people there. And then also in Crescent City, don't they go to that mountain and there were ruins or something? I don't remember. I feel like that mountain is the connection to all three of these places.
My God. Well, we're gonna have to immediately do a reread of the other two series after we're done with this one because I don't remember that exactly, but that sounds like you could really be onto something. My gosh. I feel like we're gonna get a lot of those questions when we get to Tower of Dawn. Maybe it's just because I don't remember as much of that one, but I feel like we get a lot of those kinds of nuggets in Tower of Dawn.
I think so. Um, I feel like there was something in here about Deanna also, and the little girl that was giving gifts. And then there's a lot of references to high priestesses and burning libraries and stuff, and that happened in Akatar. That was a very main plot point in Akatar for some of the side characters in the House of Wind. Is that what it was called? Yeah, the library
Yes.
there.
Hmm.
But anyways, yeah, when they are at Yulmis, they're at the temple and they're doing the celebration or whatever. There's that little girl that's giving out gifts.
Yes.
And Deanna, goddess of the hunt and maidens, approached. Selena shifted from one foot to the other, wishing she hadn't demanded that Kale give her the aisle seat. To her dread and dismay, the girl stopped before her and removed the blindfold. This golden arrow, as a symbol of her power and good graces, was given to her by the young little lady thingy, and I think that's a lot foreshadowing there.
Absolutely.
Deanna specifically. I thought I didn't catch that. Obviously, it didn't mean anything to me in the very beginning of the book, but
Right.
then also at the end of the ball when Selena and Dorian, after they had kissed and then she's out on her balcony in the garden, the captain of the guard stared up at the young woman's balcony, watching as she waltzed alone, lost in her dreams, but he knew that her thoughts weren't of him. She stopped and stared upward. Even from a distance, he could see the blush on her cheeks. She seemed young, no, new. It made his chest ache. Still, he watched until she sighed and went inside. She never bothered to look before. I was crying because I hate love triangles. I hate love triangles. But I love both Kale and Dorian. And yeah, for Kale to so obviously be loving her and then her and Dorian to be having a thing, it just broke my heart for little Kale over there.
I know. This one is the well, I guess it is kind of a love triangle, but it's so funny when like I feel like more than once one of them would go to her room and then the other one would come right after and they would both
Yeah.
be like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, why are
Well, what
you
are you doing
here?
here? Yeah.
Why are you
Well,
here?
right. Well, I
Yeah.
was just doing that. Well, I was just doing that. Well,
It was cute. I did like that.
yeah.
Another thing I highlighted was when Nehemia gave her her own name, and she
Yeah.
says, "You bear many names, and so I shall name you as well."
Yes. I caught
Hmm.
that too.
Yeah. And then she gives her the name Elentia. I give you this name to use with honor, to use when other names grow too heavy. I name you Elentia, spirit that could not be broken. I loved that.
So sweet. It's really hard now that I've read all of what is about out there in the Maas verse. It's really hard for me not to correlate Nehemia and Danica. I'm like the besties. I don't know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Um, what I was about to say is there's a part when Selena has a nightmare and it's talking about like thundering hooves beat from the frozen ground and her running, her being young, and then in my mind I'm like, is this like a flashback? Is this something that happened when later on? Is this something that happened later on? Or I guess 8 years before.
Yeah. I think it
Mhm.
is. I think it is like
Or
flashback.
not 8 years. How old is she? So 10 years. 10 years before. She was 8 when she was found. So, yeah, I thought maybe that was a flashback instead of just a dream.
Yeah, I feel like she has that particular sort of flashback in a slightly different circumstance, but like a couple of times. And then she also has the her remembering like crawling into her parents' bed a
Yeah,
couple of times and they're both
I have
deceased.
that up right now.
Yeah,
When Cain was talking to her and talking about what was it like when you woke up between your parents covered in their blood. And then it goes on to say, how did Cain know these things about Selena's past? And I'm curious about that also. I think it had said that because he had like the word marks or whatever, he was able to. I think Nehemiah had described it as he was able to see into her head. But I'm just curious if, like, that also just brings back the question, like, how does the king not know who she is?
right. Well, because we kind of are under the impression, I guess more so on a reread, but Nehemia knows who she is too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, is it a word mark thing? Or, again, yeah, how does the king not know? Or is it because of stuff that's revealed later about the king? How do I put this without saying too much? Is it because there's sort of like alter ego sort of thing going on?
Yeah,
And they're like the good side's kind of keeping it from the bad side.
yeah.
I think that's a way to say it without giving too much away.
Mm-hmm. Another foreshadowing thing on chapter 50, Selena shot forward as fast as an arrow of Deanna,
Yeah.
or connections, lots of connections. And then Nahimi was also talking about just like the other worlds in general and word marks and how you can open portals, realms beyond our realm. And I'm just like, somehow these need to be connected, and I need the next book now to
Yes.
have them connected.
Yep. Well, I was thinking about that. So with Elena too, with she's like telling her about herself at the end, and she's like, I fought in the war against Erewhon with Gavin in the Demon Wars.
Yeah,
Demon Wars?
Demon Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we elaborate on that a bit more? When did this take place? Like
Mhm.
what demons?
Yeah,
What
and
demons?
Selena asking Nehemia if it's possible to go to these other worlds. Yes.
Right. Yes, it is. um oh, her saying Elena saying to Selena, you could rattle the stars. Ugh. I mean, foreshadowing, but also just like
Mm-hmm.
pivotal to the series,
Yeah.
that sentence.
To bring back more hell references, um, when Selena finally did sleep, her dreams were filled with archaic words and long forgotten faces, with word marks that glowed blue, with the king, and with a dead army summoned from the realms of hell.
Crazy. Let's see. One other foreshadowing thing that I took note of is when she's talking to Selena and she says, "Thank you for rescuing me," and Elena says, "Blood ties can't be broken."
Yeah.
Right over my head the first time. Like, oh,
Yeah.
they're blood ties. Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. In the same area as when you were talking about you could rattle the stars. Um, Selena is down in the tomb and she's dreaming. And it says she often visited the tomb in her dreams to slay the Ridrak again, to be trapped inside Elena's sarcophagus, to face a featureless young woman with golden hair and a crown far too heavy for her to bear. I think that is absolutely foreshadowing what happens in like the end of is it Empire of Storms, the end of Empire of Storms and the beginning of Kingdom of Ash. Her being trapped in a sarcophagus, and a featureless young woman with golden hair and a crown far too heavy for her to bear.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then a couple chapter or a couple paragraphs down, it goes to Elena saying, "You could rattle the stars, you could do anything if only you dared, and deep down you know it too. That's what scares you most." And then a little farther down, Elena's talking to her and says, or Selena asks, "Why? Why answer? Why do I need to be the king's champion? Because there are people who need you to save them as much as you need yourself to be saved." So full circle.
So good.
It is. I'm so
Ugh.
excited to continue reading. I'm excited. The next one is The Assassin and the Healer, and the goosebumps I got when I first read that novella. I remember it vividly. I was in the shower and I was listening to it and I was like, "Oh my god, that's her."
Yeah.
So I'm
Um,
excited to read that next and then go on to um Crown of Midnight.
One other thing I wanted to make note of in this one is at some point I took notes mostly rather than like annotating, so I don't remember exactly when she says this, but she said at one point she was like, I always wanted to be a healer. I forgot that she had wanted that, and she said that in book one, that that's something that she had aspired to be before she was sort of like forced into this assassin life.
I feel like I
That's
skimmed over
foreshadowing.
that. I don't think I even noticed that. Or if I did, I immediately forgot.
I feel like she said it to Dorian or something. They were talking, I don't even remember,
Oh,
but she's like, I
yeah,
always wanted to be a healer.
yeah.
Yeah. Foreshadowing in a couple of different ways.
A lot of it.
One, once for Dorian and once for herself.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and for Kale. Lots of foreshadowing.
Mm-hmm. I am I am kind of really sad about how she decided she didn't want to be with Dorian.
Yeah, and I forgot that they had so little time, like, kind of
Yeah.
together. It's literally like they're making out. She has the final competition, and then she's like, nah, we should probably break up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the
Also,
whole book is building up to that. And then,
yeah. For some reason, in my mind, Throne of Glass and I'm going to assume Crown of Midnight were kind of the same book in my mind because I thought at the end of Throne of Glass is when she leaves Rifthold, and I got to like the part where they're doing the final battle, and I'm like, how is that going to happen in 50 pages? Like, how's she going to have this whole romance and leave and whatnot? And so I'm glad I'm glad that there's a whole other book.
yep, yep. I feel
And
like,
I think too that I think the part basically about almost 50% through when she first discovers the tunnels, and then that is what hooked me on Throne of Glass and what really got me to continue going. But then also, just this next book was such a good book, also. And the whole romance that happens, and her getting to do her thing. And so, yeah, I'm excited to go forward.
one thing I get, this is sort of spoilery, but not really, is I thought that the doorknob thing happened in this book. I kept
Me
waiting
too.
for the talking doorknob guy, and he wasn't
Mort.
there. Mort, that must just be in Crown of Midnight
Mhm.
because I kept expecting it when she was in the tunnels and then he didn't show up. So
Yeah. Also, did we ever figure out how Kane was getting in the tunnels? Did he also have a door somewhere?
he must have. I don't think it explicitly says, but I'd imagine there's got to be a few ways to get in there. Um, on like a 1 to 5 scale, what would you rate this one?
I think I think I'd rate it a 4. I really enjoyed it, but just this book alone, I don't think I would have recommended it to a lot of people.
Right, if that was it. Yeah, I would agree. I'd say probably it's so hard for me not to take it like emotionally. I'm like, no, it's a 5.
Yeah.
But I think on its own, it's probably a 3 or a 4 because you need to keep going. It ends
Hmm.
at a place where you're really wanting more.
And I mean,
Um,
if I'm really thinking about it, it took me like it's 50% basically until I get to the part that I really like, and it really takes off and whatnot. So, and a lot of it is really, I feel like the moments are just so short. It's like there's one chapter where she's doing something in the stables, and then a chapter where she is getting dressed for something, and they're just really short and fast. And yeah, once it got to 50%, I felt like it was just then like a full story.
yeah,
Everything kind of flowed together now instead of just this timeline. A week later, she's running and throwing up. A week later, she's doing something else. So yeah, I think it's
yes,
a 4.
agreed.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, I didn't mention this before, but the novella, The Assassin and the Pirate Lord, and Throne of Glass, I think on the spicy scale would be like a 0.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's some kissing, but even that is very PG. Like, there's not a
Mm-hmm.
lot of description, which is fine because these are young adults, so that's
Yeah.
completely fine. But if you're
Mm-hmm.
looking for spice, this is not the one
No,
for
this is
spicy.
absolutely like fantasy with a romance subplot. Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's also why a lot of people don't like it because they go
Yes.
into it thinking it's going to be spicy because, book talk. That's spicy books are the thing on book talk instead of just like fantasy with subplots and stuff. But yeah,
Right.
I don't know. I really enjoyed these books were fun.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, like Taylor said, next time we're going to be talking about The Assassin and the Healer and Crown of Midnight, and probably giving a little bit more spoilers as we go along, but trying not to reveal too much. If anybody else is reading these or wants to reread them, we'd love some feedback, some comments as you reread them or read them for the first time. Maybe stuff that stood out to you, your favorite character, least favorite character, all of the above. It's hard for us, I feel like, both to talk about our favorites and least favorites without going too far ahead.
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
maybe as things go along and slightly more is revealed, we can be a little bit more, we can give a little bit more away.
Yeah. I think right now, though, in the Throne of Glass book, Dorian is my favorite. I just loved Dorian.
Yeah, I think the first time I read these, and even on the reread, I think Dorian was probably my favorite too.
Mm-hmm. He's just kind of sassy and he has a lot of personality.
Yeah, I like that they talk about books together. It's kind of cute.
Yeah, and he's so flirty.
Oh my gosh, so flirty. Ooh. Whereas
So, yeah.
Kale's always like, hurry up, let's
He's
go.
grumpy. He's such a
So
butt.
grumpy. So grumpy. But turns
Yeah.
out she likes it, so.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I forgot like how in love Dorian was with her at the end of this one. He's like in love with her. He's ready to just like stop being a prince for her. He's like, whatever, giving up the throne so that I can be with Selena.
Yeah. And he was talking about how he doesn't want to marry just because he wants to marry someone who is like fiery and passionate like he is. And it basically is describing her.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I completely forgot like just how enamored he was with her, which is also why the like her just being, it feels really cold when she's like, nah, we probably shouldn't make out anymore,
Yeah.
be together. It feels really, and then she even says like, but I still really appreciate your friendship.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just be friends so hard. Wow, cold-blooded. And one sentence before he was like, I'll tell my dad and mom about you right now. Nah, let's be friends.
Yeah. It was a little kick in the butt.
Yeah, I mean, she knows what she wants, and I appreciate that a lot about her, though.
Yeah. I think I would have really enjoyed a book about them though.
Yes, yeah, just as like a what if kind of,
Mm-hmm.
or just a little bit more time with
Yeah.
them as a couple would have been fine.
But then again, they are kind of like, I don't know if we should add this, but they're kind of like cousins or something.
We do find out later they are distantly related.
Yeah.
How distantly is kind of up for debate, but they're somewhat distantly related. And also, I feel like, I don't know. Well, we know that there's like an epic romance that's established, and I feel like having too many of these sort of sub
Yeah.
loves maybe would have been too much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Sam, and then if it were Dorian, if it were Kale, and then yeah. Although I do love Fenris too.
Yeah.
Can she just have them all?
Right. Like, let's segue into more of a, what is the series that you made me read that I love with
Is it Ruthless
purple hair?
Boys?
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, why can't we like segue into that, like a why choose? That would
Yeah.
be fine.
Mm-hmm. Just like the whole cadre. But I do love who Dorian ends up with, who Kale ends up with, so I think it all works out really well.
Yes, absolutely. I'm super looking forward to getting more into this series with you too, because I feel like as we go along, we'll have more differing opinions on people and like what's happening, and I think that'll be really fun to get into because I know that we like and dislike certain characters and things that happen at different levels, so I think that'll be fun.
Yes, I'm excited for that also.
Perfect. Well, thanks for joining us for the first episode of Bookmarked. We'll be back next time with Crown of Midnight and The Assassin and the Healer.
Yeah, I'm Taylor. That's Kat.
Thanks
I'm
for being
Taylor.
here. I'm Kat.
And this was Bookmarked.